It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 262 for what? It's either February or March. I have no concept of time. I got COVID for a second time just recently, and my
Ooh.
brain's still foggy. Just felt like a cold, but that's my excuse now. Oh, I forgot to do something? God, COVID. Didn't take out the trash? COVID. Don't know what day it is? COVID. Anyway.
Well, that's very 2020 of you, so time to move on.
I forgot to mention my name. See, COVID. Co-host Steve Wright with me, Ben Stelter. Hey Ben, back for another week. How you going?
Same as always. Actually playing some games. Like there are some new stuff out. You're playing a lot more than me. I still feel like it's very much a quiet start to the year. Like we had Prince of Persia a couple episodes ago. That was a banger. Nothing else really. I feel like I'm still waiting. Final Fantasy VII is coming up soon, so like there's that. But besides that, it kind of just feels like a bit of the B team to start the year. Would that be fair?
Yeah, because I do those, here's what's coming out this month posts, and February was like, yeah, for the things that you just said. March is, like WWE Alone in the Dark, which I was kind of excited for, but then I played the little standalone demo and do not have high hopes for. Yeah, there's not a lot coming out. And I guess that ties into our main topic later on, but let's kind of delve into some of the quick things that we've been playing. I have a potential banger for you that I think you'll actually enjoy. It's by Don't Nod, who did Life is Strange and Vampire, and did you ever play Remember Me? Like back in, I think it was the 360 game.
Yeah, I think I did. Yes.
It's pretty good. I liked it. This is kind of a combination of all of those things in a period piece called Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. So it's like set in the 1800s. You're a ghost hunting couple basically who go into the new world, into America, and you're basically Ghostbusters. You go and find people who are being haunted. You interact and figure out what the ghost is doing, why it's haunting these people. And you either banish them or you help them ascend, which is like making peace or some other stuff. So there's like the Life is Strange kind of morality piece there. And the larger kind of overarching plot is that one of you passes away, so they turn into a ghost, so you have to kind of like do that process to them almost. It is equal parts kind of like God of War in terms of exploration and sort of combat, and in kind of just stylings, with a plot that has a heavy feel of like The Witcher, because everything's very all the side missions and the missions are very well plotted and with rich and complex characters, and you're making kind of those decisions that could either do one of two very different things in the larger story. It's surprisingly good and also surprisingly, I guess, maybe overambitious at times. Like the map is way too big. There are too many little side things to do. The combat is overly difficult until you get a certain set of powers, and then it becomes kind of too easy and kind of rote. And I might like it because of what you just said. There's not a lot of other things to play, but I've found it quite enjoyable. I think I gave it a 7.5. So if anything that I was saying kind of piques your interest, I think you would like it. So how's
Maybe if I think being a Don't Knock game, I'm conditioned to think it should be on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. So maybe I will play it when it comes to that, which it definitely will in a few months. I do like their games, but there's only so much I can take of them, I feel.
It's really long. So yeah.
Oh, long. Don't have time for long.
Well, yeah. And because I like doing all the little bits and pieces, so it's taking me way too long. But again, I have nothing else to play, so it's kind of perfect for that right now. Whether or not that is a good thing is up for you to decide. You've played the other thing that I've reviewed recently, which is Mario vs. Donkey Kong, so why don't you talk for a bit?
Yeah, well, I played it because you were so glowing in your review. I was going to skip it because it felt very B tier, and it is. It's extremely mid from Nintendo, but it's great mid. It's priced as a budget-ish game. I think it's $70 instead of 80. It's a direct remake of the GBA game, so it's just that game again, but remade for Switch. So it runs pretty well. It's very basic.
Hmm.
It's super easy, really. Like it's if you want a challenging, not that there's that many challenging Nintendo games, but Super Mario Wonder had some pretty hard levels towards the end in the special world. I mean, I haven't finished this game yet, but as far as I can tell, pretty easy, and that's in the normal mode. There's an even easier mode which I haven't bothered with. It's very much a very simple little platform puzzler. Not even much platforming. It's really just a puzzler.
Hmm.
And it's kind of reminiscent of the old school Donkey Kong games. So Donkey Kong's the villain. Mario is essentially trying to get to him, but they've added in a few little more quirks. You got to get some toy Mario's basically along the way, and he's a bit more restricted in movement than he is in the standard Mario games. But the reason I like it and why I picked it up is because I've just played a few pretty big games to clear my backlog. I'm still playing Ghost of Tsushima as well, and I know I've got Final Fantasy VII Part 2 coming up. So I've got some meaty games, and they're just such a time sink. And often after work, 7 p.m., sitting on the couch, it's like, oh, I just can't be bothered with something like that. I just want to play something for 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
this is that game. Like, it's short little worlds. You can play for less than that and still achieve something. Perfect for handheld mode on Switch. Like, it's so quick to just pick it up and you're straight into it. So that was what I was looking for. That's what it's delivered. And I think it's, even though it's a remake, it's clearly Switch nearing the end of its life, and they're using some remakes and remasters as kind of fillers.
Yeah.
It kind of fits the time. Weird to say, the fact that we're just talking about how there's a lack of games, but I also feel like a little short, quick, and easy play game is good to have as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's like a little bursty, short bursty palate cleanser, and like I was pretty dismissive of it when it was first announced, because for exactly that. Oh, it's just a remake. It's a a re-release because they're killing time. But I quite enjoy it. It's exactly what it is, and it fits the brief, and there you go. The last thing I've been playing, sort of, and Hamish is reviewing it properly, is Skull and Bones, the quadruple A title from Ubisoft.
First one ever.
Yeah.
First one ever.
Might be the last one. It might sink not only itself but Ubisoft. It's horrid. It's devoid of personality. It is like, oh, let's take the cool bit from Black Flag and not do anything else whatsoever, and dumb down the controls, and this is compared to Sea of Thieves, and Hamish is more of the expert, but he was saying, if you played Sea of Thieves, you crew up and you're the captain of the ship, you drive it, or you're firing these cannons, or you're managing the sails. And in Skull and Bones, there's only ship combat, and you're doing everything at once. So it's hard to steer, fire, aim, brace, control the sail. I don't know. I played it for probably 20 minutes at a time. It's almost like the same duration as Mario versus Donkey Kong, but one made me want to keep playing, or set it down and pick up later, and the other one I felt like I had to play because I needed to see what it was, and I hated every second of it. I would not recommend it. It's kind of sad, but did we really expect anything different? I don't know. It's like in limbo.
Well, it was very Duke Nukem 3D. I'm surprised it came out at all. Like, it just didn't have. It had that feel for years that like it's never going to happen. I feel like I was at the E3. We're probably both there when it was announced, like
2015,
not 12. Like,
oh no, not 15. Yeah, or not 13,
right.
15.
So 13 is when Black Flag came out. Yeah, so I feel like maybe it was 15. Like, it was around this. I think it was the same year as what's the other one called?
Sea of
rare
Thieves.
one.
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves. That's the one. Not Sea of Stars. That's a different game. And then that came out in 2018. So it was kind of like that was relatively quickly. And it just felt like these were going to launch at the same time. They're going for a different vibe, but the same type of thing, and they're going to clash. And then it just didn't happen. And it just didn't seem like it would. And maybe they were so just hell bent on, you know what, we need to deliver it, and they've done it, and it wasn't great, which makes a lot of sense.
Well, and not a fact-based show. I've seen rumors that like it's leveraging some sort of Singaporean tax break, so that's why it had to come out. And if you start the game, the credits literally have every Ubisoft studio that has ever existed like come up in the credits, and it's supposed to be this like glorious thing, but it just looks like, oh god, like how many people have had to try to like course correct this thing. And then like it loads you into a character creator where like nothing about your character, you can't really define anything about your character. He looks like he's like ripped straight out of Xbox 360 era, and it's just like, oh yeah, you're shipwrecked, I guess. Oh, you've run into these two people. For some reason, they've decided that you're the captain of your 3-man crew. So congratulations on the promote. It kind of just goes, and you're left wondering why it's not very immersive or compelling, and that's sad. So if there's a demo, I guess if for some reason you're like, no, this sounds exactly like what I want to play, I would highly suggest you download the demo first and check it out from there.
I will not do that.
Don't worry about it. Um, you can read all the reviews that we've just talked about and probably more. No, not probably more. Definitely more over on the site if you're interested. But let's get into our main topic for today, which is this going to be a quiet year? Is 2024 kind of like what we were saying for the last couple months? Is that going to extend all the way through the year? I'm thinking yes. What's your thoughts?
I think so, especially considering how massive 2023 was. And it was the year of the remake, the remaster, and the port. Like, it was very much a bunch of oldies new, and the sequel, I should say. So there just wasn't like a great deal of new IP, but we got some sequels we've been waiting for a long time, and we got some great remakes and remasters. So there was heaps to play for the whole year. That hasn't eventuated in the first quarter or so, looking through to the end of March this year. There's still some big hitters, but just not as much. And PlayStation have basically said, and it kind of fueled the rumors that gaming in general is dead after our Xbox chat last week. Sony, not long before, said they don't have any more first party games for this physical year, which runs through April next year, or the next physical year, which kind of means that they don't have any big games coming out for the holiday season, which is unusual. It's not unusual for us to not know about them at this point in the year, but they've kind of just basically said, nah, we've got nothing big this year. And they only really had Spider-Man last year, so it's actually a bit of a drought. They are still publishing some games, and they've got some timed exclusives. So Final Fantasy is a massive one for them, but Square Enix published that. They're publishing Rise of Rome, which looks like a decent game, but I guess they're not counting that as first party because it's they don't own the studio or the
Koei
IP,
Tecmo.
but they're publishing it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of second party. That's what we used to call that back in the day in the 90s. That's not really a term used anymore. It's like a timed publishing deal or something. So they've got a few things still coming up, but it's definitely less than we may have expected. I think we probably just assumed there was going to be something big in the second half of the year, especially with these rumors of the PS5 Pro that don't go away, which is apparently still coming this year. But I don't see that if they don't have a game to go with it.
Yeah, neither do I. And I guess looking at what Xbox said in that business update not too long ago, they say they have 10 titles coming up this year. And I'm assuming Call of Duty is one of them. Again, in Xbox fashion of late, they made that call but didn't really back it up. I think they named 2 games, and I can't for the life of me tell you what the first one was Hellblade 2, which
got time.
big name. Yeah, it's been out there for a while. It's like, to their admission, an 8-hour game, so it's, I don't know, I kind of equate that to more like a, well, yeah, that's good, but it's kind of equating to like a Spider-Man Miles Morales in my mind, and not like a Spider-Man 2. Like, it'll be good, guys, but like, set your expectations accordingly. And the other title they talked about was DLC for Diablo 4, which I guess is exciting if you're a Diablo 4 fan, but it's in Season 3 already. Again, coming to Game Pass, end of March, so there'll be more people playing, but like right now it's not being critically received. Like, it's kind of stagnating. There's a lot of there's like a $60 horse armor microtransaction that's been added to the game recently. People were happier with how season 2 was compared to season 1, but season 3 is not going over very well with people. I'm almost level 90 of 100 cap, and like, I'm basically gonna try to play with Matt, my husband, to get to level 100 and then kind of bounce off it, because there's only so much Diablo I think I can play. So good for some people, but like, that's not huge, absolute bangers like I would necessarily be hoping for.
No, and normally when you'd say, oh, Xbox has 10 games, you'd be like, great, that's heaps, because then Activision will have some games as well. But no, that's all one and the same now, so it's less than you think. So I imagine all those are still multi-plat, so there's probably only maybe 4 or 5 which are Xbox exclusive for now, from either game studios or Bethesda. Like, Avowed is pretty much confirmed to come this year. I think it might have even been confirmed for this year, and that looks pretty cool. I'm not sure that it's a system seller, but it's good to see some new IP from Xbox. I think that's the thing they've been missing. It looks a bit Skyrim 2012y from the short burst of gameplay we saw, but I'm keen to play it. But yeah, they're still missing some things, and like I'm sure like Flight Simulator 2024 will look amazing, and it'll be like, wow, they've made the whole world again. But we already did that a few years ago, so it's kind of like, what's the big thing I really want to sink some time into?
Yeah. Well, and we're not
Um,
starved for the world this time because we can actually go out and
yeah,
see it again.
no, and I think we gave it a 10 or something. Like it's an amazing game from a technical point of view, and like really cool. But like, what are you doing in a sequel? Like, I'm surprised because it's been getting DLC this whole time, which makes a lot of sense, and world updates and
Yeah.
things. But
Well,
why is there a full-on sequel?
the Dune DLC came out or is about to come out, timed for the new movie. If you ever wanted to fly
Okay.
I don't even know what you fly. A dune, a sandworm. You can do that.
It's weird in a simulator game. Anyhow, like yeah, it just feels even though they've got a lot of games this year, like Indiana Jones, that is a big one. But it just feels maybe a bit busier for Microsoft because they've had a few down years. But otherwise, for everyone else, it just seems quieter. Like we don't even know that much on the third party front, and they're really gonna drive it. Um, but it's kind of why I was hoping GTA 6 might be this year because that was going to be the big thing, and that's not happening. No idea what EA and the likes are doing, but it doesn't seem like anything major. They had Star Wars last year, so they probably don't have a big single player game this year. No doubt things will be announced. Things aren't announced as far as in advance as they used to be, so there'll be stuff announced mid-year for this year. Like there will be things, but it feels quieter. It doesn't feel like we have the big stream of things. Nintendo's probably the busiest of the major publishers, but they're releasing their kind of end of generation games at the moment. So we spoke about Mario vs. Donkey Kong. A Peach only game is very much an end of generation game. They've got the remake of Paper Mario, which they haven't given a release date for, which is a bit weird. And the Luigi's Mansion 3DS port, like it's very much a bunch of filler titles. So they'll announce more stuff as well. Not to show how the sausage is made, but there has been a partner direct since this was recorded. So we could be looking like fools, and there could have been a bunch of third-party exclusive announced. I doubt it, but it's possible. And the big rumor is that Switch 2 has been delayed to 2025. I know some people will be saying, how can it be delayed if it was never actually given a date, which I do understand that point of view. But if you've ever worked on anything ever, internally things still be delayed, and they are delayed. Like they're delayed from your plans. They're just not a public facing date. So that would change things. It does matter because it means a bunch of things that were scheduled to come out this year are now going to be pushed back to next year.
Yeah.
And potentially some third party games which were aiming for a Switch 2 launch, and that was kind of their thing. They might delay them as well to kind of align with that if that's what they're going for.
Yeah, and like so everything you said makes perfect sense, and it kind of maybe also suggests, or is the answer to why this is a quieter year. Things are being not announced with the confidence that like Starfield was. When Todd Howard stepped up on stage and said, "This is the date it's coming on this anniversary. It's going to be amazing," and then they had to delay it basically a year, which I think we're seeing less announcements that are with dates because of that. Just because of the nature of game development. And, it goes back to Skull and Bones. Like, the current cycle, for good or bad, is studios throwing all they have and probably more at a single project, hoping it sticks and works and is on time and under budget, and it's generally not. And if it succeeds, excellent. And if it fails, like maybe your studio closes down. So it's not like you're picking up your, getting up off your back and back on your feet and making a next game. Like this is make or break at this point. So I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't need like quadruple A games. I don't need everything to be a triple A game. I would like a couple triple A games, but the nature of game dev maybe needs to change, or we need to be more transparent with how things are going. I have no answers to any of these problems, but I think we're starting to see that more, and it's kind of been the problem that Xbox has had for so many years. That is sort of fixed, it isn't fixed, and maybe will be fixed, and then is fine for a second. Like if you have no games and you hire all these studios to make games. Kind of the way the cycle works, they all release their game at the same time. What was that, 2022? And now we're kind of back waiting for all those studios to make something again. Sony's having the same problem, Santa Monica and my goodness, my brain's just shut down. Naughty Dog, release games at a similar time. Well, that means they're back in the cycle, and you're not going to get anything from them for a while, unless you spin off new studios, spend more money, take more risks. Hopefully, it works, etc. So I think I keep saying it. It's a weird time in the industry. It's a weird time in the world. Like all this kind of stuff affects everything and everyone. It's not just specific to games. It's happening to film and TV and streaming and manufacturing and whatever else. So
Absolutely. It's kind of weird that there were so many games last year, and it's a lot of them were delayed from previous years, and that's why. But now you kind of look at it and say, I wonder how, like, Alan Wake 2 sold really well, but would have it sold even better if it came out now when there's nothing else, and if it had some hype earlier in the year. Same with like Baldur's Gate. That did do pretty well, but it launched in that holiday September timeframe, and then it got basically buried on Xbox because of issues there. So like games using this time of year to kind of get a bit of free air has been really successful, but there's just been less of it this year. And maybe it's because there's a Final Fantasy coming out, so people want to kind of steer clear of that. But it just seems like we just don't have as many heavy hitters as previous years. The good news is it's a chance to catch up on your backlog. So if you're like me and you've got games that you've had for years that you've been saying, I'll play that next, and something always slots it in front of it, now's the time. And if you don't play it now, probably delete it from the backlog because it's not happening.
Yeah. Well, and just quickly going back to the Alan Wake thing, even if they do release it now, it's almost that it's still tied into the nature of game dev and how things, you can't make everything. If you make DLC or something with the game, you might as well release it with the game, not as DLC. So, like with Alan Wake, it's done super well. It's sold, gangbusters for Remedy. They're really pleased. But, people are now kind of waiting for the DLC, and it's not ready. It's not coming out. It hasn't been dated. Elden Ring was huge, and we still don't have that first DLC pack. It's been promised. I think by the time you've heard this, they've at least put out a proper trailer and stuff. We don't know anything about that because it's not the future. Like, I played Elden Ring, a year and a half ago? I'm going to have to relearn how to play Elden Ring if I want to even think about the DLC. So I'm not excited for that as much as I would like to be. But it's just the nature of the beast. Ago? It's been a while.
Early 2022? Yeah. Insane that they announced that DLC so early, and me, I'm not really normally a DLC player. I probably would be for Elden Ring, but it might just go on too long, and I don't care. Like, it's too hard to jump back in the game for that years ago DLC.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Anything else you want to say? Have we milked this topic dry?
We have. It's much like the lack of games. We might not have that much to talk about this year. We'll have to see. I think that's not going to be the case because something's going to happen. Either every week we seem to get a comment about Xbox dying, PlayStation having no games, dooming everything, Nintendo delaying their next console yet again. Hell, that is kind of some of the big news. If that's true, it's going to be 8 years between Switch and Switch 2, which is the longest time ever between Nintendo platforms. In that time, Switch 1 could become the best-selling platform. Like, it could go past the PS2. It's not that far off it. They might just keep it going. They don't seem to care that they've got an absolutely ancient tech. Like, it keeps selling. Maybe they'll delay it again and the internet will melt down again. Like, you think the comments are bad for Xbox basically killing themselves or shooting themselves in the foot. PlayStation saying we're not going to release any more games, but we're putting the prices of our console up. Nintendo says they're delaying their console. Well, they don't even say that. It just gets leaked. That's what's happening. Nintendo fans lose their mind. Yeah. You get the two sides. You get the side of it, people just losing their mind. How could this not happen? Where's my next console? Then you get the other side of it, people saying, of course they're not going to do that. They've got the most successful platform ever. Why would they ever release another platform? They should just keep Switch for years.
Well, and as much as we've been bellyaching about the hardware being awful, like Tears of the Kingdom made pretty good use of some outdated hardware. Not that was, this year or anything, and it's certainly not Princess Peach Showtime, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I hope to be pleasantly surprised and wrong and see a really action-packed, second half, at least, of this year. Capcom theoretically has 5 Resident Evil games in development, so if I get 1 or 2 of those, I'll be happy. So that'll be me sorted.
Yeah,
anyway.
Well, I'll just take what I can get at this point. I'm happy to play through my backlog. And Final Fantasy will take me like 3 months with I'm going to assume that's going to be absolutely massive.
Well, there you go. If you're listening and you have games that we've forgotten about this year, tell us how wrong we are, especially me. I'll blame COVID, so I won't take it personally. How do we find you on the internet, Ben?
I have no idea. I don't think I'm really on the internet anymore. I seem to just be out. I don't really X much anymore, and I haven't moved to Threads. Like I don't really get it. So I guess that means I have more free time to play games because I'm not on these things so much.
Yeah, you can find me on my phone playing Microsoft Solitaire because I don't know, it seems like a fun thing to do, and there's nothing else to play. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.